There are two main exertional heat illnesses that we'll look at today: exertional heat exhaustion and exertional heat stroke. Exertional heat exhaustion, the primary characteristic is the inability to continue exercise and a rectal temp of less than 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The primary characteristic of exertional heat stroke is a central nervous system dysfunction and an increase in core temperature above 105 degrees Fahrenheit. These two can look very similar at first glance and have very similar symptoms, such as excess fatigue, syncope, hot and wet skin, diarrhea, being dehydrated, and staggering. Either of these conditions are or can be life-threatening, so it's important that when you do assess the patient, you assess their level of consciousness and their airway breathing. You immediately call 911 and obtain a rectal temp in order to tell the difference between the exertional heat illnesses and if it's exertional heat stroke. The gold standard to take core temperature is to take the rectal temperature. In order to do that, you must insert the thermometer approximately 4 inches past the anal sphincter, and then on top of that, note any signs and symptoms of central nervous system dysfunction. A core temp is one of the key signs in order to tell the difference between heat illnesses. So you have your PPE on, you make sure the scene's safe, you approach the athlete and assess the athlete's level of consciousness and then their appearance, whether they're sweaty or clammy. Assess ABCs to make sure those are the primary assessments intact. And then if you're suspecting heat illness, you would take your rectal thermometer and turn it on. And if you have an extra set of hands, you could shield the glutes to make sure nobody else sees if it's like a public space where you can snip a hole in the shorts. For this example, we'll just kind of pull them down a little bit. So you use an alcohol prep pad on the end of it, let it dry. Use some of the lube to then insert it approximately 4 inches. And then if you meet any resistance, you'll pull out and then put it back in. And then you can tape the wire to the side of the glute to make sure that it doesn't pull back out. Place the athlete in the ice tub for like an aggressive treatment while monitoring the signs and symptoms on the rectal thermometer. The management and treatment for exertional heat exhaustion and exertional heat stroke is different. Now, since we showed up later and it's been 5 minutes, we're suspecting exertional heat stroke, so we're going to cool first, transport second with cold water immersion. The cold water immersion tub should be approximately 35 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit with ice. If the patient becomes combative, you may need extra hands to restrain them. Put a towel underneath their armpits and around their chest to support them if they are unconscious. Continuously stir the water so the water doesn't heat up around the patient. Continuously track vitals and monitor rectal temp. Have EMS on the way prior. Once rectal temperature is below 102 degrees Fahrenheit, it would be considered safe to transport. Now, if the athlete starts seizing or any other complications like cardiac arrest, transport immediately with EMS even if temperature isn't below 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and keep cooling on the way to the emergency department with EMS with best means possible.